Boom. We are live. Let's not get copyright striked. We are live with Blake and Jonathan. We got UFC 294 wrapped up, all in the paperwork. We got Alexander Volkanovski versus Islam Makhachev ending with an exclamation point. Islam Makhachev with a head kick knockout to get it done. We had Hamza Chimaev taking on Usman in a competitive co-main event. That was an exciting one as well. And the card top to bottom, we just had banger after banger after banger. But before we get into that, like I said, we got my man Blake Schneiders in the house. How you doing, my man?
What's up, baby? I am fucking fantastic. I'll tell you what, I'm just appreciative that we're back here another Saturday night. I know it's not directly after the fight like some of our fans like, but apparently algorithms like it when we do it a little bit later. So that's what we're going to do. The UFC 294 was awesome, top to bottom. I think there's a lot of things that we're going to get into. I think we can talk about a lot of the matchups, a lot of the surprises, and a lot of the I wouldn't say reffing, which is a hot topic on this show, but the doctor in this show,
Yeah, man. The
we're gonna
doctoring,
talk about it. We're gonna
it
talk
almost
about it.
it was almost like Johnny Sins was playing the role of doctor. Shout out my boy Gage. For that
Astronaut,
one,
doctor, construction worker, yoga teacher. He apparently does it all, and apparently he did not do this one very well.
Yeah, so I mean it wouldn't have been Johnny Sins then because he would have done a much better job in the cage. He would have let Johnny Walker continue the fight tonight. And then you also had one where the doctor told the fighter it was not a nut shot, where it was very clearly the fighter was dying after taking that shin to the nutsack area. But we'll get more into that when we get to those fights. But I want to start off with this incredible main event that we had. And sometimes main events they end up being a war, and sometimes they end up just being something where it's just a rocket ship. And you see something like fireworks that we saw tonight with Islam Makhachev, that beautiful head kick to put Alexander Volkanovski down. Any other man would have folded right away. Alexander Volkanovski, he tried to stay on his feet, stumbled down to the ground. Islam followed up with some ground and pound, and that was it. Way more exclamatory than the first fight. Obviously, Alexander coming off of a short notice to take this fight, but regardless, Islam proving he is number one pound for pound best tonight. The next challenge for him is maybe Justin Gaethje. There's also Mateusz Gamrot in the works too, who is going to be the backup for tonight's fight. So a couple of different people that could potentially be next for Islam. But let's talk about right now. Let's talk about that head kick. What did you see, and what was your reaction to that performance by Islam Makhachev?
So here's the funny thing. I was actually watching it on my phone. I went downstairs to grab some water. As I was walking up the stairs, watching the phone intently, I dropped my phone. At the exact same time that I dropped my phone, Islam Makhachev threw a fucking leg kick from hell on Alexander Volkanovski, and all I heard was John Anik's voice into my carpet. Oh my God, I can't believe it. And I picked it up and then just saw Volkanovski getting his head punched in amongst the cage. And I thought he was going to be able to get out of it. He wasn't. Boom. So I actually missed the head kick live. I was so mad. Talk about a chance. Talk about just like the chance that Volkanovski was supposed to block that kick because it actually hit him right in the hand. But it skimmed over the top and clipped the top of his head. That small of chance that he did that was the exact same amount of chance that I dropped my phone right when it happens. This game is a crazy game, John. But no, the main fight, it was good. I think we can all agree, and maybe, who knows, maybe I'm in the minority. I was really hoping for a 3, 4, 5 round ball buster, and we got an absolute knockout in the first round. Nobody, I think, wanted to see that unless you're just a diehard Makhachev fan. Even and I really didn't have a dog in this fight. I was just hoping for another great battle between two fucking studs who come into this division. And it almost made me mad because obviously Volkanovski jumping up, trying to be a 2 belt, 2 weight belt holder. It just you want more. You want more. This is
It leaves some on the table. You
yeah.
always, there's definitely, like you said, some you always want to have a little bit more. Those wars are always going to be more memorable versus
Yes.
than the kick that'll just going to end up in the highlight reel. Like, don't get me wrong, excellent performance by Islam.
Excellent.
You know, you get that head kick knockout in the first round. As far as what he did absolutely nothing wrong. But to your point, I can understand to where, you know, you want a little more as a fan. But man, he did his job. You know,
Yeah.
Alexander Volkanovski, he's going to continue to reign at 145. He's probably going to get Ilya Topuria next. That's going to be a very fun matchup that I think Alexander can take. But Islam, I think the next question for him is I think Justin Gaethje potentially is the next matchup. Like I said, there is some options for him. But, you know, do you think there's even anyone that can touch Islam in the current horizon? Or do you think Islam is on his way to having a Khabib-esque run or even greater because Khabib didn't give us as much because of the passing of his father? You know, do you think Islam is on his way to passing Khabib in the resume that he builds throughout his time with the championship at 155?
100%. I think Islam is already, he's what? Khabib had 3 title defenses. Islam is already at 2. If he gets a third, he will already tie the quote unquote GOAT for some people, Khabib Nurmagomedov. I believe Makhachev is already at that level. And honestly, in my opinion, this might be an unpopular opinion, John. He's already faced tougher talent than Khabib ever faced. I think, especially if he's on this trajectory, if he beats a guy like Justin Gaethje, if that is the next matchup, if even if he didn't beat Volkanovski a second time and they would have given him Charles Oliveira and he beat Charles Oliveira the same way, those are names, man. And Khabib just never had the names for me. He is ultimately undisputed one of the greatest MMA performers of all time.
I think the greatest way to describe him is he's the most dominant fighter of all
Yes.
time.
Yes. He what he did was he dominated every single opponent. Even I mean, yes, he had his battles against Conor McGregor, and those were epic. And guess what? He made Conor McGregor look mortal. For somebody who everybody thought was immortal, he made Conor McGregor bleed. When you
He
make God
ragdolled him.
He ragdolled him. When you make God bleed, what happens? God's no longer immortal. He's mortal now. But I think Makhachev, if he continues on this trajectory, he's already going to have a better resume of wins, and he's going to have more title defenses. And I truly do believe he will have more title defenses. I am not like, if you're putting money in Vegas right now, I believe Makhachev has more title defenses by the end of his career than Khabib ever had. That being said, if they do schedule Justin Gaethje for this next fight, so it's Makhachev versus Gaethje, I would absolutely love that because Gaethje is going to be a guy that you have to watch out for because, one, he's got the wrestling. He doesn't like to use it. People forget he has it, but he can use it when necessary, and he can use it greatly for defense, and that's what he normally uses it for. He doesn't use it for offense. He uses it for defense. His striking ability, his leg kicks, his punching power, everything in Gaethje's arsenal is geared specifically for what Makhachev does well. And that is what I think I'm most excited to see if they do decide to make this fight. Now, that being said, Makhachev looked so clean. He looked so calm and composed on the feet this go around versus Volkanovski. And obviously, he set it up. He hit Volkanovski with the low leg kick. He hit Volkanovski with the mid kick. Volkanovski was not expecting him to come with the high kick, but he set the whole thing up. This is no means a takeaway from anything Makhachev did because he did it perfectly. He executed his game plan. And what do we say every week? Anybody who executes the game plan flawlessly is going to come in and look fantastic. And that's exactly what he did. And he fucking showed people why he is the champion of this division. But it was a little lackluster because everybody was wanting more. It was not lackluster on Makhachev's part. It was lackluster because all the fans wanted to see a drop-dead knockout 5-round fight, just like the last one, and it wasn't that. But this is by no means, I mean, Makhachev came in and did exactly what he was supposed to do. Is, in your opinion, Volkanovski going to get, I mean, he's still the featherweight champion of the world. Okay? Still the featherweight champion of the world. Is he going to make his way back to try to be the double belt champ? Is he going to get another opportunity against Makhachev? What do you think?
See, when looking at him currently, he's 35, right? So you have to look at the life expectancy of like a UFC fighter. they start peaking off maybe around 37, 38 when their prime really is just, mostly over unless you're a heavier fighter, right? Power is a lot more dominant in those heavier weight classes. So I think with Alexander Volkanovski, I don't think you're going to see him be able to challenge 155 again. I know DC said on the commentary he wouldn't be surprised to see Volkanovski maybe work his way back up to a rematch here, but I think with the way Islam is fighting right now at 155, how dominant he is, I think if another fighter was able to knock Islam off the table, and then at that point you have Alexander Volkanovski versus a Justin Gaethje or an Arman Tsarukyan, you know what I mean, or someone else of that nature. But when you have Islam there and you've seen, with two, even though this was a short camp, but even when Alexander Volkanovski was very prepared, yes, it was very close, but Islam did what he had to win the last fight. This time he knocked him out. I don't see Alexander Volkanovski challenging Islam again at 155 unless by some means something happens for Islam to lose the title. And even if he loses the title, he's probably going to have to lose the rematch too, because I don't see him not
Yeah.
getting an immediate title rematch against that one. But let's move on to this co-main event because it was an absolute barn burner. It was a very fun one. I think when you talk about storylines throughout the course of a fight, Hamzat Chimaev versus Kamaru Usman was incredible. I mean, the looks that Hamzat had coming into this fight were insane. The scary looks he had, crazy. It was fun to see what Kamaru Usman was going to do coming up a weight class. Now, something that we learned after the fight was that, Hamza potentially broke his wrist after the first round. So if you didn't see the fight, first round starts off by Hamza literally ragdolling Kamaru Usman. It's not something I don't think I ever would have said before, but Hamza was on the back for Kamaru for most of the first round. He almost got the choke in, but Kamaru, with very excellent awareness, actually slammed Hamzat on his head, potentially the spot where Hamzat broke his wrist. But from there, second and third round, Usman was a lot more competitive when it was on the feet. He was able to not get taken down by Hamzat until the end of the third round, where he got taken down until about 30 seconds left. But when the fight was on the feet, it was way closer. It was way closer when it was an actual stand-up fight. And you saw the jab of Usman maybe get not used as much, but when he used it, it was effective, and the right hand got through a couple times. So it was a very fun fight. It ended up being Hamzat Chimaev with majority decision. One judge did give Usman rounds 2 and 3 and gave a 10-8 to Hamzat Chimaev. So that's how it ended up playing out. But it was a fun fight. Hamzat is going to be next for Sean Strickland. I do expect him to win that fight. But before we break that one down, I want to talk about Usman versus Hamzat Chimaev. What was your reaction to that fight? And did you think that Usman do enough in the fight, or did you leave? Do you think maybe he left some in the tank, knowing that he's used to fighting 5 rounds?
One of the reasons I sometimes hate co-hosting with you, John, is because you're so good at your job. You take a lot of my talking points sometimes, and that's not your fault. That's just because you're such a fucking professional that I love it. Because no, you hit the nail on the head. Usman's jab was getting through, especially the second and third round. This is a fight I think everybody wished would have gone 5 rounds, because had it gone 5 rounds, I think Usman ends up winning this fight. It wasn't. It was a 3-round fight. And as you mentioned, Chimaev ended up breaking either his wrist or his hand. I know that he came through in the first round and said to his trainer, "Hey, I believe I think I broke my hand." So we don't know if it was the hand or the wrist. Do we have confirmation on which part it was?
No, I
No.
don't think yet. I can
Okay.
pull it up while you
So
continue, though.
yeah. Either way, he broke something in his hand, which you clearly saw in his ability to put pressure on Usman as the fight went on. He was not as willing to run forward through a brick wall like we normally see Chimaev do. He was a little bit more tentative, a little bit more choosy with his strikes. And you did not see him throw that powerful right hand that we all know he loves to embellish later in the rounds. And that's what I do believe Usman saw and was able to capitalize on, was that he was not getting the same amount of pressure. He did get ragdolled in that first round. Obviously, then he put Chimaev on his head. So we had a little bit back and forth. As that happened, you saw Chimaev's tank not dwindle, but his aggressiveness dwindled. That's the thing I think everybody was really surprised about. And obviously, it clearly, as we find out after the fight, it has something to do with his hand. It might be broken. It might be the wrist. It might be the hand. We're not really sure. But I think that would have allowed Usman to get back into this fight. And I think he realized it too late in the fight. Had he known that, or had he noticed that earlier in the fight, because Kamaru Usman, Marty, has a high fight IQ, and I'm a little surprised he didn't realize it earlier in the fight that that Chimaev was not throwing that right hand more. And had he known that, I think he would have realized one of two things. One, this guy's either too super tentative compared to every other thing that I've seen him ever do, or he's clearly injured. Okay, and him having a high fight IQ would have been like, hey, he's clearly injured. Let's attack. Let's push towards the right. Let's make him use that right hand, set myself up into situations where it's going to be used where I can capitalize on, or where he has to use it. Either way, the fight was fantastic. I think Kamara, I don't know if you were able to hear the back and forth between him, and I don't know if it was the judging table or if he was trying to talk to DC, Felder, and Anik after the fight, but he clearly thought, I think he won that fight. He thought he did because he was looking very upset. I did not think that. I clearly thought Chimaev won the fight, but Kamara was making his push. Again, if it was a 5-round fight, I think Kamara probably would have edged him out at the end. But something happened towards the end of that fight that he mentioned something to the table or the judging table. I'm not sure which one it was, that he clearly thought he won, or he had an issue with something. So I didn't know if you had any insight on that or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure about any insight in that. I only know the way that Bruce Buffer kind of announced it was just a little weird, right? He said
he didn't say the second score. I mean, he said the second score, but he didn't say who it went to.
Exactly.
That's what threw me off. My ears peaked up as soon as I heard that. I forget, it was 29, 28.
It was 29-27 for 2, and then 28-28 for 1.
Yeah. Okay. So it was 29-27. Is that what you said?
Yes.
28. Yeah. So it was 29-27 Chimaev, 29-27 nothing, and then 20. What was the last one?
No. 29-27 twice for Chimaev, and then once it was a tie.
But that second announcement, he did not say who it was for, and
because it was a draw. 28-28 is a draw.
No, I get that. I'm talking about the second announcement for the 29-27. He didn't say who it was for.
He said and winner, Khamzat Chimaev. So
no, I get all that. I get all that. He left off a name when he was naming these scores out, which piqued my ears because he didn't say who that round was for. Because normally when he does it like that, Bruce Buffer will tell you 29-27 fighter, 29-27 fighter, 28-28 draw. But he didn't say it for the second one. So that's why I think I was thrown off. I was like, well, who was that 29-27 for?
That makes sense. But I think the
agrees with me. Second judge's scorecard winner wasn't it didn't make any sense.
Right. Well, I think the way he did it was just because when you have 3 different scorecards, you don't want to give it away and be like, oh, 29-27 Khamzat, 29-27 Khamzat, and then a draw. So it's a majority decision. So anytime he's doing a split decision, he's going to do the 2 discerning cards first and then the last confirmation one anyways, right?
So really what he should have done was given the draw second.
That's what he did.
Did we watch the same fight? I don't think he did. He gave the draw last.
He gave the draw second.
Okay, either way, it was very odd the way he announced it. Like you said.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely super odd. But anyways, back to the fight. I want to touch on, and I want to let you touch on just some of the post-fight comments made by Chimaev, because it was, I think it was just super, I think it was powerful for what he was, talking about, with what's going on in today. So I'd love for you just to kind of touch on that, just real quick on, I didn't expect the guy who Khamzat Chimaev and I'm going to kill everybody and all that, that's the last guy you expect to make you emotional. But I think he had some powerful words. I just want you to touch on that and kind of just the maturity of what he said tonight in the octagon.
Yeah, so you and I and Dave usually text throughout these fights. Obviously, we're talking about different things, fighters, cool things, talking about the how we're going to schedule the show. And one of the things that Dave actually said to us is the last guy you'd expect to make you sit there and think and maybe even make you tear up a little bit was Hamza Chimaev. Hamza Chimaev gave a very powerful message. Obviously, unless you've had your head in the sand, everybody here knows about what's been going on in Gaza and Palestine and Israel. And we're not a political show. We don't sit here and talk politics. We talk fights because that's what we do. We're not here to give you, you can watch the news for that. You can get your own sources for that. But what I thought was extremely powerful from Hamza Chimaev is he did not, he wasn't even picking a side. What he was spreading a message of peace. He was talking about the children. He was like, this is about the kids. He's like, I'm all for the kids. He wanted I think he blessed both Israel and Palestine and Gaza, the Palestinians themselves, Gaza and Israel. He was talking about the kids. He's like, this is senseless nonsense. We need to stop doing all of this. I don't care if you're Muslim, Christian, Jewish, and that's what he said. This is about the children. We don't need to be doing this senseless violence. And for a guy who gets on the microphone, like you said, John, and says, I will kill everybody, I will smash anybody who comes into the ring, for him to turn around and do that on the biggest stage in Abu Dhabi, I think that was extremely powerful for Hamza Chimaev to do that. And to me, it showed one of two things. It shows his growth as he's more aware of where he stands as an influencer in this game, and it shows his maturity. And I think those two things are so powerful when it comes to Hamza Chimaev, because when you talk about champions, you talk about how they carry themselves normally. You look at Alexander Volkanovski, you look at Makachev, and you look at how they carry themselves, and you can list a litany of other champions. Hamza Chimaev is kind of growing into this role. I believe that he knows now, hey, I can say certain things, but in a time when people expect me to say one thing and act like the man of old, the Chimaev of old, I'm gonna bring a new message to the table. So, and I don't want to drown on too long about that, but I just thought that was such a powerful message from Hamza Chimaev to be able to come out and speak a complete message of peace across the board. Doesn't matter the side, Muslims, Christians, Jewish, does not matter. I thought that was extremely mature of him, as well as very needed on the biggest platform in front of the biggest crowd on the biggest stage.
Yeah, I think like you said, he knows where he stands in the sport. So for him to put a voice like that out there, super powerful, super awesome for him. And he's definitely lined up for the next title shot. Him versus Sean Strickland is going to be great.
Yeah,
Honestly, we could spend a couple more minutes breaking that down, but I kind of want to spend more time on this card just
of
because
course.
there was so much that happened. But let's talk about some of the mishaps that happened tonight. So
Yes.
let's talk about Johnny Walker tonight versus it was versus Magomed Ankalaev. Now there was a grounded knee, and it was very clear. And Johnny Walker seemed pretty cognizant throughout the situation. Now, apparently, the doctor asked Johnny Walker where he was. Johnny Walker said, I'm in the desert. That wasn't the answer that the doctor was looking for. I mean, I'm not sure if he expected him to say, I am in the UAE, United Arab Emirates, or Abu Dhabi, or, whatever the arena is called, the Etihad Arena. But, for him to be that cognizant and for them to call the fight off, that was the second time where he had a mistake tonight, right? The first time was a nut shot where he told the fighter that he was faking the nut shot. So, I mean, like I said, there was just a lot of mishaps with that. I was super confused during that fight with, why he called it off, because it seemed Johnny Walker was perfectly fine. And it seemed like he was almost ready to get back into the fight. Just the same as Ankalaev, obviously. Now, maybe you should take a point from Ankalaev. You continue the fight there. Maybe you run this fight back, man. What were your thoughts as that was happening? Because that was just such a strange moment.
Yeah. So, well, I think to talk about the Johnny Walker fight, you have to go back and talk about the Henry fight. And because I think they go hand in hand, in my opinion. He tells, oh, where am I? He tells Victor Henry after a nut shot that this was a little weird. He wasn't able to, none of us were able to get a clear, great video clip of the nut shot. Even the guys on the stream weren't able to get a great video of it. It was always a little cloudy, any angle you chose. But I'll tell you this, John, we're both men. We've been hitting the nuts before. I know a genuine nut shot hit reaction as opposed to a fake one. And we've seen fake ones here in the MMA. We've seen fake ones used in the UFC where we're like, dude, you didn't get hit. You're that is a clear, like, oh, it hit me. Oh, but I'll be fine. Just give me 5 minutes. No. When Victor Henry is down on the ground, he looks like he's pale white. He is clearly in pain. And the doctor comes in and tries to tell you, you have not been struck in the nuts and you are faking it. To a man who can't stand up, to me, that is clear. I don't even know what inexperience and unprofessionalism. Then the same guy who wants to tell a fighter he's not hurt then goes into the Johnny Walker fight, and Magomed Ankalaev is knees a down opponent. And then all of a sudden, you did not give Johnny Walker a full 5 minutes. You actually came in within, what, a minute and a half to that octagon and start asking him concussion questions, and he didn't give you the precise answer that you wanted. Yet he seems fully cognizant. He seems aware, wiping his eye, ready to fight Ankalaev. And you tell the referee he's not acceptable to fight. He is not in the right mind to fight. You're now playing two sides of a very jagged card. And that is what I don't understand. The first guy you are telling to continue fighting, even though he's clearly hurt. This fighter, Johnny Walker, you're telling you're too hurt to fight when he's clearly telling you he's okay. I don't know what's going on in Abu Dhabi. I don't want to say that there was some shadiness going on. I just would rather leave it up to the fact that I believe he was extremely inexperienced and maybe overcompensating for the first fight that we believe that he almost tried to sabotage, but he did not. And they made the right call in the Victor Henry fight with giving it a no contest. But to me, all of that was a miss. All of that seemed very fishy to me because Johnny Walker and even Ankalaev tried to fight after they called it a no contest. After they waved the fight off and voided the entire fight, they were like, no, let's fuck this. We're still fighting. Like, and if you asked me, hey, where are you fighting right now? And he said in the desert, is that a wrong answer? Is that a wrong answer, John? Because
Absolutely not.
even John Anik said, had he asked me if I was fighting and I said in Abu Dhabi, technically that's not correct. So would that have counted as a wrong answer? What answer were you looking for? Like, was there a specific set of words you were looking for, or was there just a cognizant answer? And I think that Johnny gave a cognizant answer and he looked ready to go. So this whole fight, and it's connected directly to the Victor Henry fight, seemed so amiss to me. And I think it befuddled us as viewers. It befuddled the judges who were clearly not okay with it. And it befuddled the fighters.
Yeah, man. Yeah, like you said, befuddled. That's the perfect word to say. And for Johnny Walker to go through this, I think it's just super unfortunate. You know, I think everybody in the building wanted this fight to continue. I think this fight had all the makings of potentially stealing the fight of the night, like for anybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this was a fun one going in. I mean, Johnny Walker's dance coming into this fight was absolutely hilarious. Gives Johnny Walker an award just for being one of the funniest guys in the UFC without even saying a word. Like, this man's facial expressions and body's expression, like the things he does is hilarious. But let's get on to the next fight, man. Ikram Aliskerov versus Warley Alvarez. Man, Ikram is legit, right? I believe his only loss in MMA is versus the co-main event star, Hamzat Chimaev. But Ikram was able to get the knockout versus Warley Alvarez, get it done in just over 2 minutes. Man, do you think Ikram is a legit threat at middleweight? Like I said, his only loss is Hamzat Chimaev, and that was a long time ago. Do you think Ikram has all the takings as far as what it takes to get out there? Because I mean, the flying knee that followed or before what he'd finished Worley Alvarez, to for him to get up like that and to follow it with the strikes he did to get him out of there, absolutely insane. Thoughts on Ikram Aliskerov and his potential ceiling with the in the middleweight division?
Well, Ikram is 6 of 7 of his last fights with finishes. He's won 7 in a row. Right before Worley Alvarez, he took on Phil Hawes and KO'd Phil Hawes. And Phil Hawes is, if anybody knows, is a jacked human being. As far as where I think he stands right now, in that middleweight division, which is an absolutely loaded division, I think he does pose a threat. I think anybody who's looking at him is going to be like, okay, this guy has kind of put everybody on notice now, and he's done it 7 fights in a row. Okay, and he's not beaten slaps. The last 2 guys, Phil Hawes, as well as Worley Alvarez. I mean, yeah, Worley Alvarez has 7 losses, but like he's got 15 wins in the octagon. He's got over 20 fights in the octagon. Like it's one of those things where you're like, has he put himself on notice? Yes. Do I think he's a top contender? That still remains to be seen. I can't make a judgment on that quite yet, but he looked extremely impressive tonight. And I mean extremely impressive, especially getting the TKO. I mean, that's what you want. If you're a guy who's trying to put people on notice, finishes are the way to go. And 6 of his last 7 fights have all been finishes. So that on that trajectory, yes, you are going to start making guys notice you, and you're going to start becoming a problem.
Definitely, man. And before we move on to the next couple fights, because obviously there's a lot of fights on this card, we can break this down all night long. But I want to give a shout out to a friend of the show, Cedricus SD Dumas. You know, getting the dub tonight. This
Plus,
decision win. Fighting, you know, obviously got it fighting out of Pensacola, island fights. Um, what is it called? Alumni, you know, making it out of there before actually making it out to the UFC. He was able to get a solid decision, actually able to get the takedown in the first round, which was very impressive because obviously we saw in his only loss, him getting taken down was a big part of that. So for him to get the takedown, control the fight on the feet as well, even though he got his hair pulled, you know, he was able to get the win, get the decision win. But I want you to talk about your favorite fight of the night and break down one of your hometown boys getting the dub.
real quick, before I move into the hometown boys getting the dub, I want to ask you about this hair pulling thing. What is your take on this?
Yeah, you can't pull hair.
Okay. I'm just making sure because it seemed like on the announcers for tonight, and DC was talking about hair pulling, and I'm like, it's not football. In football, you can pull hair, and I know I use a lot of football references. I know this is an MMA show; it's international. Not everybody has football. You can pull hair in football. You can't do it in the fight fucking game. All right, you don't see the girls going out there pulling each other's hair. Okay, so I thought that was a little, there was a lot of weird penalties / cheap shots throughout this entire card, which I thought was heavier than normal. So I just wanted to know your opinion on the whole hair pulling thing.
Yeah, like I said, man. I think I mean it's very clear. Obviously, you can't pull the hair regardless of gender, you know. So I think John Endick said it perfectly. Or I think it would have been Falfelder just say Clay Guida, you could have just grabbed his hair and you know Muay Thai clinch him to death at that point, you know. But I want to, like I said, give a shout out to him to get that dub. But as far as your man getting the win, man, let's break that down
Yeah,
real quick.
Let's break down Money Mike fucking Breeden, baby. Money
Getting
Mike
that
Breeden.
dub, the comeback dub after being down 2-0 on all
Mhm.
3 judges' scorecards, coming back, getting that knockout in the 3rd round, which I think is one of the hardest things to do. He was able to get it done with a busted eyebrow hanging over his eyes, able to get the knockout win over Anshul Jubli. Anshul in the first couple rounds, he was able to, you know, be really well with the striking. His head movement was good. He was actually able to, you know, put Mike Breeden actually rock him a little bit.
Yes.
But Breeden was able to stay with it throughout the entire fight. It seemed like the gas tank of Jubilee wore out heavily in that 3rd round. His head stopped moving, and Mike Breeden was able to get the knockout, man. Thoughts on your boy getting the dub?
So first off, I'm gonna have to disagree with you. I do not believe Jubilee's gas tank ran out. I truly don't. What happened was Money Mike Breeden coming into this fight, hailing from Kansas City, fighting out of Overland Park, training at Marathon MMA. Guys, it used to be formerly, why am I blanking on it? Krause's group. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Money Mike Breeden out of Overland Park, out of Kansas City. I'm Kansas City, John's in Orlando. Money Mike Breeden had gotten a cut that we noticed pre-fight, and it looked like he had gotten that cut on his eyebrow. And that, we believe, could be a potential reason why he was unable to make weight. If you're not able to train for a specific amount of time, that would lead me to believe that you weren't able to cut weight properly. It could just be a mismanagement of his weight. I don't want to put the missed weight solely on the injury, but to me, likely that would be the reason that you weren't able to make proper weight, because he did come in, had to cut 30% of his bag to Jubilee because of that missed weight. Anyway, coming into the fight, had the stitches on his eye. Those got opened up, late round 1, early round 2, that those stitches opened up. And his eyebrow was flapping in the wind. I believe it was either Paul Felder or DC that said that eyebrow was talking to him because of how much it was just moving. He was getting beat. Jubilee was keeping great distance, landing perfect strikes, keeping a great striking distance to where Breeden wasn't really hurting him too bad. There was times where Mike was able to get into boxing range and land some big combos, but they weren't in high volume at the time. They were only few and far between, but they were doing damage clearly. That third round, Jubilee was up 2-0. I mean, it was Jubilee's fight to lose. And him being the first Indian fighter ever, I believe, especially on a main card, or especially just in general, I think he had a lot riding on him. And I believe I think he folded under the pressure, unfortunately. And I think it had to do with the mind games that Mike Breeden started playing in the
just
third round.
screaming at him, telling him to go.
He started coming out, pounding. Mike Breeden came out in that third round knowing, hey, this is do or die, because Mike Breeden has not had a great go of it the last couple fights in the octagon, okay? He's been a good fighter on the local circuit, has been up and down kind of in the UFC. This was a fight that he needed to win, and he realized in that third round, hey, this is a fight I got to win. So he comes out, starts banging on his chest, starts barking at Jubilee, literally like a dog, arr, 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 barking at Jubilee. And I truly believe, I mean, he was pulling Nate Diaz tactics out there. That's what he was doing. And I truly believe that I think he got into Jubilee's head. I do not believe it was a gas tank issue. I think Jubilee was giving him his best at that time, and Mike Breeden was still coming forward. And Jubilee simply was taken aback and thrown off his game by this trash talk, which you don't see happen so drastically normally. Like, yeah, guys trash talk, guys will talk shit. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. A lot of times it doesn't. But this fight, I think it truly stunned Jubilee. And then Breeden started landing jab, combo jab, was able to land multiple hits at once. And truly stunned Jubilee into not remembering what his game plan was and why he was winning in the first place. Mike Breeden was able to come back, land multiple combos, get the right hook for the win on the knockdown and the knockout. And I'm telling you right now, John, and I know we'd like to save this game for later, I have not looked at the winners. I have not looked at the bonuses. I would be surprised if this fight did not get a bonus of some sort.
Well, let's get into it. Let's play Guess the Bonus. We got 4 bonuses on the cards. No fight of the night, but we have 4 performance bonuses, all of them being with a finish, of course. So got quite a couple finishes on the card. Not too bad as far as guesses there. So go ahead and break it down. Let me hear your guesses for the bonuses for tonight.
So for bonuses, you said they were all no fights of the night, but they were all performance bonuses, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so first performance bonus, I'm going to have to give the Money Mike Breeden. I believe he got one. Don't tell me till the end. I believe Money Mike Breeden got one. I also believe that Islam Makhachev got one. I'm also going to go with Ikram Aliskerov. I believe he got one, and I believe Saeed Nurmagomedov got one. Is that 4? That's 4, right?
Yeah, that's 4. You got 3 out of 4. Mike Breeden then didn't actually get one.
What? Are you kidding me?
They gave it to Mohamed Makayev getting the arm triangle over Tim Elliott.
Are you kidding me? I mean,
so, yeah, man.
This is not me talking shit on Makayev, because Makayev easily won that submission. And that was a great fight between him and Tim Elliott, but he dominated Tim Elliott most of that fight. It wasn't necessarily overly impressive based on what was happening. Like, I would have definitely given that to Mike Breeden, seeing as he was clearly down 2-0.
I
And
think I think maybe the argument is just they're both ranked fighters. You know what I mean?
yeah. I get it. But this, I mean, again,
No, to
what
your point, the more exciting knockout, like when you talk about what was more like dope, I
was
mean,
a
the
better
knockout was
fight?
better. He was down 2-0 on the scorecards, and it's a knockout over a arm triangle. You know what I mean? So,
Watching both those fights back, if you had to choose one to rewatch, which one would you have rewatched? It was the Mike Breeden fight.
um,
No, the Tim Elliott fight was not a good fight.
no, it was not a good
It
fight.
wasn't a good fight. Tim Elliott was on his back, 3 total rounds. And again, this is not taking away anything from Makayev, because Makayev came in and did his thing over the number 10 guy. He's now in the top 10. That's a huge statement from him. But as far as fight that you would rather with rewatchability, nah, it's that Money Mike Breeden.
Oh yeah, for sure rewatchability. But I think when it comes to like
I get
challenge
it.
wise, like what's the harder finish? Getting a finish over Tim Elliott's pretty tough
Yeah,
versus
for sure.
a guy that's,
Also, shout out to another Kansas City guy, Tim Elliott.
hey, shout out to the boy. But hey, man, we had a wonderful card night. We're 40 minutes deep, so I think it's the perfect time to to put a bow tie on this. But guys, of course, thank you guys for watching. We had an exciting UFC 294. As always, shout out to my boy Blake for making this show a million times better than it would be without you. But we don't have a fight next weekend. 2 weeks from tonight, we have Derek Lewis versus Hilton Almeida, and then a week after that, we have John Bones Jones. We have Alex Pereira versus Hiri Prohaska. We got Jessica Andrade, Mackenzie Dern, Benoit Saint Denis. We got a lot of good fighters on that card, man. We got some good stuff in MSG. Keep it right here on Fight Bananas. We're gonna keep it locked in on your post-fight shows. We got Betting Bananas that's gonna keep you loving with your betting picks. We got Fight Bananas live every Tuesday, I believe, with Dave, who's gonna be taking care of you with some live interviews, some breakdowns, what's going on weekly with the MMA world. So we'll take care of that. Just make sure you guys follow us here on Fight Bananas, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, MySpace. Get a beeper. Make sure that you got a beeper rolling with us. Appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of your night.